Building the Future, Transitioning from a Pandemic. And our panelists this year are a little transpo heavy, and we'd like to talk about how the infrastructure bill is going to affect the upcoming engineering sector and provide insight for all the younger members and the changing nature of work and how the pandemic has changed engineering in general, as well as how the digital era has changed the engineering landscape, especially working from home and the normalization of digital meetings, and how this affects transportation infrastructure, public transit, and telecommunications. And for our board, or our panelists this year, we have Kristen Simpson, Director of SDOT, and we have Kevin Dayton, Chief Engineer and Assistant Secretary of WashDOT. We have Howard McKenzie, Vice President and Chief Engineer of Boeing Commercial Airplanes. And we have Ron Lewis, Executive Director of Design, Engineering, and Construction Management with Sound Transit. So, Kirsten, if you could introduce a little bit about yourself and a bit about your background, and we'll make our way from left to right.
Happy to, and thank you for having me here. My name, again, is Kristen Simpson, and I am with the Seattle Department of Transportation. I am not an engineer, but I think my career path has followed one that's similar to many of my engineering colleagues, so I'll share a little bit about that. I think that might be of interest to the audience. I started my job by answering an ad in an actual newspaper and sending in my resume on paper. It was with the Seattle Engineering Department at the time. I didn't really have a career plan. I had a degree in political science and had just started grad school in urban planning. But I thought, okay, I'll work here for a few years. Engineering sounds interesting. I've been there since the 90s, worked in a number of different roles. I started out just as an assistant transportation planner, which is entry level. We also have a lot of assistant civil engineers, which is where folks coming out of engineering school get their start in the department. Worked in a number of different roles, project management. We have a great program within the department where you can work for a year in different assignments. So I worked in IT and finance. I did a lot of grant writing, which I think we'll come back around to when we talk about the new infrastructure bill. Project managed the South Lake Union streetcar and got a little transit experience that way. For the last 3 years, I've been serving as the chief of staff, and as we're in a period where we don't have a permanent director, I'm also serving as the director of the department.
I'm Kevin Dayton, work for the DOT. I'm the Assistant Secretary for Regions and serve as the Chief Engineer. And much like Kirsten, I had kind of a roundabout way of where I got to where I'm at today. During college, and I am an engineer, I'll admit to that, I had an opportunity to work for County Public Works and really developed a real love of public works infrastructure. And so upon graduation, I looked to county, city, and the DOT as a big public works organization. It was in '83 and there was not a lot of hiring going on, but I did get an offer to work in the DOT sign shop in Tumwater, and I thought, not doing anything else, I'm going to try it. And it was a wonderful opportunity to really understand the operational side of the Department of Transportation.
So you talked a lot about
and
that.
I got really good at making street signs. I could do it today. I learned the skill so well. Well, it wasn't long there, and I was actually told that I would be transferring out to a project office. Again, I think people had an eye on me and knew that I had a degree and had a future plan for me. That was at the kind of the tail end of the interstate completion. We were building Freeway in Olympia, widening that, and I worked for a number of years there in design, construction, took some leadership positions, became the assistant project engineer in that office for a number of years, and then ultimately moved to Tacoma, where we had other public works projects that I was able to lead my own project office. And that was a real exhilarating position there, learning how you could accomplish things through a staff of people and how by inspiring those people you could grow them and develop them. I still talk about the 4 years I spent in Tacoma as the best 4 years of my career. Then opportunity rang. I had an opportunity to go back into headquarters downtown Olympia, work in a grant program, local programs, helping distribute federal aid to cities and counties. And it was a headquarters-based job, but all of the people doing the work worked in the regions. It was my first opportunity to actually not necessarily supervise, but influence people that didn't report to me. And if you ever get a chance to do that, that's a skill set that is very, very valuable. It's easy to tell people what to do when they work for you, but to influence them when they don't work for you is even a better choice. Following that, I took a lateral to be a program manager of a region budget. I've said it's the worst job I ever had, but the most beneficial to my career. I felt like I was overwhelmed the entire time, but as I moved up in the organization, I realized just how important that experience was. I had a chance to serve as the state construction engineer. I served as the region administrator for the Washington's second largest region, the Olympic region, the Peninsula, Pierce County, and Thurston County, and then was elevated into headquarters once again to serve in the role that I have now today, where I oversee the 6 geographical regions, all the operations there, construction, design, as well as serving as the department's chief engineer. So that's my story.
Hi, good evening. I'm Howard McKenzie. I'm the Vice President and Chief Engineer for Boeing Commercial Airplanes. I lead a team of about 15,000 engineers across the world responsible for the design, certification, development, and support for all Boeing commercial airplanes in the world. This is my 35th year at the company. I'm a graduate from the University of California at Berkeley, an ME. I started out as an intern with Douglas Aircraft in the late 80s, mid 80s. My career has spanned a whole number of roles. I like to tell people that I've worked on every commercial jet aircraft platform built and designed in the United States, whether it's in service role or in a production role, except for 3, the L-1011, the 707, and the 727. I've worked on every single one of them other than that, though. It's been a thrilling ride. Most recently, within the last 7 or 8 years, I've had an opportunity to lead several technical roles within Boeing Commercial Airplanes, led the environmental control systems design certification activities in the 2011, 2012, 2013 timeframe. I was the chief engineer for airplane systems on the 777, the airplane level integration leader for the 777, the director of engineering for the 777, and finally became the chief engineer of the 777 program, responsible for all 777s in the world, which is a really, really cool role. I left that role and eventually led our Boeing test and evaluation organization, responsible for flight test and lab test for all of our products, from spacecraft to fighter jets to commercial airplanes. It's pretty cool leading a bunch of Top Gun pilots doing what they do, flying F-18s and Apache helicopters all over the place. And after that, I led Boeing Global Services, an organization responsible for service and support of all of Boeing's products in the world. And now to this role where I lead Boeing Commercial Airplanes. Super exciting role, and we'll get into it a little bit later with some of the questions, but really inspiring in terms of the ability to connect and protect across the world with our products. Happy to be here tonight.
Good evening. My name is Ron Lewis. I'm currently the Executive Director of Design, Engineering, and Construction Management at Sound Transit. And I've been at Sound Transit either as a consultant or on staff for 20 years, coming this April. And in that time, had the opportunity to be project manager on a number of our projects, including the first major project that I managed was the extension of light rail to the airport. Some of you may remember we initially started running light rail from downtown Seattle to Tukwila, and they called it the train to nowhere. My job was to make the train to somewhere, and I did that last 2 miles to get into the airport as my first major project completely under my control. And now, as the executive director, I oversee our entire program for design and construction, and we have approximately $12 billion worth of active projects in design and construction. And as you travel around the region, you'll see that work progressing, with the exception of the pause that we're taking for a current concrete strike, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. But I want to go back to the beginning just for a second here. I'm a graduate of the University of Washington, originally from the state of Michigan, but I graduate from the University of Washington, undergraduate degree in urban planning and a master's degree in civil with an emphasis on transportation. My first jobs right out of the starting blocks was with the Seattle Engineering Department as well, way back in the 80s. And I say that because I learned a lot in that first role that I still use today. Some of the assignments that I had as the new person in the department were jobs that other people didn't want to do. And I was fortunate enough to pick up some of that work, which actually exposed me to be able to interact directly with elected officials on the city council. And that experience that I had in those early days of how to communicate with, seeing our elected officials, what's important to them, and what we needed to do to serve them continues to serve me well today. So as you're entering the job market or taking that first or second job and you're getting assignments that you think, gosh, why are they asking me to do this? Look at the bright side, because there's probably a silver lining somewhere in that assignment.
Well, thank you guys. Ron, just to your point, I'm on the wastewater side of civil stuff, so I get the jobs people don't want to do sometimes. So I have been up to my shoulders in wastewater, so I feel that, but always led to good things, so I definitely echo that. Well, let's jump back in. Thank you all again for joining us. Those who may have popped on a little late, welcome. This is the American Society of Civil Engineers Younger Member Forum, Executive Forum. We'll be hearing a couple questions going across the panel from it. And then please at the end or during, feel free to type questions into the chat as we're going along. And there will be time, hopefully at the end, for some questions as well. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to read this out a little bit. So according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, latest job openings and labor turnover and COVID-19 impact summaries, the quit levels by rate has almost doubled from 1.4% in December of 2019 to 2.5% in December of 2021. With an industry-wide churn rate of 10.8%. For reference, the churn rate for manufacturing was 6.1 and the local state government was 3.4 in March of 2019. This looks to indicate a shift in workers' retention, and due to the pandemic, any conditions created by the pandemic, a normalization of working from home and the reevaluation of work-life balance. What are your companies or groups doing to retain engineers, especially with the tech companies like Amazon and Google, now also competing to hire engineers to develop more than just software solutions, especially with engineers working in multidisciplinary industries such as renewable technologies, robotics, additive manufacturing, et cetera. I guess we can kind of just pop around. Does anyone want to go first, or I can call on someone to go first?
I'll jump in.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, we've seen a departure of our workforce as well. I don't know if it's truly due to the quit rate as much as it is retirement. We're going through this era where we did a lot of hiring at the end of the interstate completion, and those people are coming of age, deciding that, you know, I could go do something else and get a continual paycheck through the pension. It's time to do that. So we are seeing a lot of churn and turnover from that standpoint. We've started, and even long before the COVID hit, we had decided that, you know, in state government, we're regulated sometimes by the legislature, by the governor's office, by rules and regulations. And so what we really focused on is let's try and optimize the things we can control and not worry about those things that we can't. And we kind of coined the term, we want to be the employer of choice and really focus on some of those things that we can do. We can control work environment, we can control how we treat one another, we can control how we train and develop people, how we mentor them. One of the first examples that we laid out on the street was the infant in the workplace. This was something that we initiated several years ago, and it cost us nothing. And the return was huge. What we saw was engineers would come to work for us. They would reach the age where they want to start a family. And after the child arrived, they would be faced with this, I can take some time off, but then what? Do I go to a daycare? It was that hard transition. And we said, look, bring the child to work. It may reduce productivity slightly, but it's better than losing an employee. We piloted it in our Olympia office, and there were a few takers on it, and the program was working very, very well. I mentioned earlier that I was in charge of regions. I started getting requests from the regions. Could we join the pilot? We have an expecting mom that's wanting to engage in it. We have a dad with a new baby that would like to engage in it. And so little by little, we approved those exceptions to this one organization pilot to where within the first year, we had all 6 regions participating in it. And from my standpoint, it was an excellent program, cost us nothing, and it helped us retain people. And we still carry that program on today from 0 to 6, or about the time that they get up and get active walking around the offices. We allow the mom or the dad, and we have both, to bring the baby into work with them. And it's been a phenomenal program, and I think well respected by the employees, not just the ones with children, but I think the coworkers respect the fact that we did that. One of the other things we've done is we've encouraged flexible work schedules with teleworking, even before COVID, and there were many people that didn't support that. I got to admit, I was an old timer. One of the, you come to work 8 to 5, 5 days a week, every day. But the more I saw this employed and used, and the production we were getting, the more I supported it. So it was a shift for a lot of people. I'll be the first to admit that, yeah, after I saw it worked very, very well. Interestingly enough, when COVID hit, we locked down, I think it was the 16th of March, where everybody went home. Operational people, maintenance people, everybody went home. Our number one goal was to save our employees, was to protect them. And until we knew how to protect them effectively, they were going to work from home. And I think our employees in general respected the response we took, employee first. It's safety-based. We're doing that. And interestingly enough, I think what we found out was a considerable amount of work got done. There wasn't much that fell through the cracks, and they were all working from home. We had a few hiccups with connections and stuff of that nature, but we were able to work through those. We now have kind of an aspirational goal from our secretary that we will telework 30 to 40% of the time. And considering that half our workforce are in positions that they really can't telework, you can't telework driving a snowplow, and we don't want the captain on a ferry boat teleworking, nor the people loading the cars. That means people that generally have an office setting like myself will be teleworking upwards of 70, 80, 90% to get to that aspirational goal. Another thing we found very popular with our employees is internships. That's our opportunity to hire them on during the summer crunch of construction, show them who we are, show them what we have to offer, and they learn and they contribute. And that's been a very, very good opportunity to bring new employees on. You serve an internship, you like what you did, then you graduate, and we're ready to hire you. On the operational side, we have a program called High Schools to Highways, where we'll go to the high schools and recruit those that are not interested in a post-secondary education and bring them on in a highway maintenance worker capacity. We'll train them, we'll educate them on what they need to know, get them into a CDL program. That's been a very, very good thing. And again, it's a recruitment effort, But our employees look at that and they understand that fundamentally our employees are our greatest asset and we're putting that effort into them. So I think that helps retain them. Another thing I think helps our retention is we have career paths. I talked earlier about, I've done everything from fabricating signs to leading large organizations. And there are opportunities abound in the DOT, both in the discipline, if you want to work construction, environmental, planning, maintenance, you name it, we have career choices there. We have advancement opportunities, but we also have a lot of lateral opportunities. Many of the greatest moves I've made were not a promotional opportunity, but rather a lateral opportunity to where I could, at that same level, gain additional experience and maybe put to work some of the things I had learned. We also, I think, remind our employees that while we may not offer the highest salaries around the state, we do offer pretty solid benefits and a pretty darn good retirement program. And unfortunately, it's that retirement program that sometimes bites us when people leave. They find that they can make almost as much in retirement as they did working for us. So we lose people there. So those are some of the things. I think getting to the employer of choice was a major step for us, understanding that there's a lot of things we can do that are within our power and not really that costly to keep our employees happy and working for us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, those programs are awesome. You know, definitely as someone speaking who's starting a family of her own, it is so nice to know that other companies are having those flexible schedules and allowing that for families. It was very scary, I think, before the pandemic to kind of start having those conversations as a female in engineering. And, you know, my company has been wonderful about it. But I know other companies aren't, and it's a concern for people. So I think the whole telecommuting thing and the flexible work hours has made it easy during that, but it's great to hear you guys were even doing that ahead of time. Also, yeah, absolutely wonderful. You guys are getting high school students involved. One of the things I've noticed during the internship from multiple companies is that internships were getting shut down because of the pandemic. So the fact that you're able to have them and keep them sustained is such a huge element that's necessary to continue the workforce out there. And we have such this number of unemployed people who need jobs, and internships are amazing ways to do that. So thank you very much for that feedback. We'll continue on. I can pick on somebody else unless someone would like to go next. Howard, where you're looking at me, so.
You're addressing us, but no, I'll jump in. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic time to be an engineer in the United States. I'll just say that. The job market for engineers is tremendous right now. We have a very broad construct across the Boeing company around engagement at colleges and universities all over the world. I'm in fact the Boeing executive focal for the University of California, Berkeley. So I spend a lot of time on campus engaging with teams. In terms of civil engineering teams, the Steel Bridge team at Cal, for example, we get a lot of great new employees from those kinds of interactions. So I would say that we are very well tuned in to sort of the dynamics going on for engaging new employees at all different levels. As I said, I spend a lot of time with new engineers, students on campus, sort of engaging them around with what they want to do and sort of what the career aspects are and excitement that comes with selecting your first role, new position. I'll pivot back to that in a second, but you know, admittedly, we were never the epitome of a virtual company at Boeing prior to COVID. Certainly, the response to COVID for us was pretty direct and pretty forthright in terms of putting everybody out to work virtually, which was brand new for us and a real challenge to begin with. But we, as many other industries have, learned quite a bit about what can be done virtually and sort of the versatility and agility that lends to the workforce. And so as I said, we've learned a tremendous amount of doing that, and we continue to do that even today. And demonstrating that commitment to versatility with our workforce, I think equally is has had its benefits in terms of meeting the needs and requirements of people at all different stages of life and their careers, and what challenges they may have on the home front, et cetera, and the ability to work different hours. Our customer base obviously is worldwide, and our customers are working and operating at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the year. If you want to take a flight, it's on Christmas Day. There are flights everywhere on Christmas Day. And so we've learned quite a bit, and we'll continue to offer that. In terms of back to my point around it's being a great time to be an engineer, the competitive market space is super strong for engineers right now, especially all of the engineers leaving colleges and universities and entering the workforce, as well as our experienced engineers moving from company to company. I've spoken to lots of organizations, lots of fellow companies in the tech space, the aerospace space, around recruitment of engineers. And frankly, we have to be uber competitive around the packages we offer for salary, compensation, benefits. I think we offer really, really robust competitive benefits and salaries. But beyond that, you sort of have to ask yourself, as you're selecting the role you want to be in, sort of what's exciting and thrilling and engaging about the work you do. And so I have lots of conversations with new engineers, mid-level engineers, about whether you want to work on the rocket to go to Mars, or whether you want to work on fighter jets, or whether you want to work on new sustainable fuels, whether you work on hydrogen propulsion, whether you want to work on commercial aircraft, big commercial aircraft, small commercial aircraft, spaceships, spacecraft, that we have such a broad product line at the Boeing company that we can offer people career selections that are almost endless. We have people working everything from real estate to the medical industry. We have our own medical organization. We have our own real estate company. We have capital companies, finance companies, business. It's a broad range. Personally, in my career, I've stayed within the engineering context the whole time I've been at the company. Yet I've done product marketing. I've done a business leadership role where I led one of our core commercial businesses from a profit and loss standpoint, financial responsibility, just around program management for large and small programs. There's certainly a whole range of engineering roles. So it's the ability to offer versatility in career selection. We are in pretty much every country in the world. So I spent time working in Switzerland with Pilatus aircraft outside of Box, Germany, or Box, Switzerland, I should say. I've traveled the world and worked with everywhere from our customers in Finland and Sweden, all the way to Hong Kong, Singapore. I mean, so we've got places to work and things to do that just broaden the opportunity space. And I think that's part of what we can offer in terms of retention of our employees. Now, as I said, it's very competitive. And so we do see a lot of movement within the industry right now. We see a lot of people going to our tech competitors, a lot of people going to other aerospace companies that are getting in the game, most notably Blue Origin, SpaceX. I think you're all familiar with those. Yet we see a lot of movement back. And so it's a very dynamic space right now. And what we can do is just commit to our teams and commit to our employees the ability to continue working, developing them. And in fact, one of my key leaders in my campus team at Berkeley recently left us for Apple. This was like 2 years ago. And he was reflecting with me as we talked about how life was going for him. And he says, "You wouldn't believe how Boeing prepared me so well for a role at Apple." And so we talked for a long time, and he said, "You never really realized how much learning was going on and how much growth I was getting while doing the roles I was doing at Boeing, and totally prepared me." And his perspective was, my love for the product at Boeing is super strong, and I will be back. And we do see that. And it's a new dynamic that we have to get ourselves used to in my world, in that the dynamic of people moving early on in their careers is different than when I started. When I started in the 80s, especially in aerospace, it was, well, you're here for a 30+ year career. My first lead engineer when I started was there 25 years, and I looked at him and I said, how could you be here 25 years? That's insane. And here I am 35 years thinking back, and I'm talking to students about selecting a career, and the dynamics today are just much different. And so I think we've got to become accustomed to that a little bit. And people who leave our company are part of our company even when they're gone. And we stay in touch with them, and they do come back. And they bring back more experience and appreciation for the range of things and possibilities that exist. So I think that's good. I think that's good for engineering in the manufacturing infrastructure for the United States. I think it's great for people to develop themselves and figure out what they want to do, and they can cross compare. And I think the choice and selections today are really, really strong and robust. And so I pivot to the people that don't leave, and you say, why do you choose to stay when you have so many options? And it really comes down to the excitement of the product. One of my early managers told me, and no disrespect to refrigerators, but he says, people don't stand at the end of runways to watch refrigerators take off. Now, we need refrigerators. I love my refrigerator. But, we'll be in a meeting right here close at Boeing Field. I have offices there. And every single airplane that takes off, everybody in the room turns around and looks at it. And we've been working in this industry for 35 years. I have flown all over the world 1,000 times. You'd think we're used to airplanes, but yet we turn around and we watch an airplane take off. We watch you watch a fully loaded 747 take off at nearly 1 million pounds. And you watch it take off and you go, this just can't possibly happen. There is no way that huge hunk of metal with all those people on it are flying. And and we've so commonalized the experience that you're sitting on an airplane and you're flying along at 650, 700 miles an hour, and you're sipping your drink and you're watching a movie. You're not really thinking that it's just 50,000 sheet of aluminum and some frames that are between you and the outside. And so it's the fascination and it's the thrill that comes with the work we do that keeps people with us, and it keeps people coming back to us. And like I said, we've adapted to the versatility and agility for the virtual workspace. I think we've done that very well. We have a lot of people still in virtual work. One dynamic that we see shifting is, and we're in a huge hiring shift again this year, and we have all of our campus leaders out at campuses all across the country trying to bring in new talent. But one of the things that's shifted for us is, and we ran all of our standard internships and co-ops through the years of COVID, which also I think we did very successfully. It was a dynamic that shifted the perception for us within the last year that, hey, people want to remain in a virtual space working from home, and people want to continue having that versatility. But the dynamics is shifting is a lot of our new entrants, our new engineers coming into the business want to be at work. They want to be near the airplane. Frankly, watching a huge 777 being put together with robotics and stuff is a fascinating thing to see every day. They want to be in the production system. They want to see the airplanes. They want to see the product. They want to be in. And so that sort of struck us differently than what our headset was coming out of COVID. And now the dynamic that we have to deal with is our mid-level people who are going to train and mentor and teach, perhaps with family dynamics that maybe our new engineers don't have yet, still want to be virtual. But we need them in with our new people to help teach and mentor and train. And so working through that is a space now that is not unique to us. I think we're seeing this in some other industries. But that's something we're working towards and trying to figure out as well. But like I said, kudos to everyone here. It's a beautiful time to be an engineer in the United States. I think, frankly, this last statistic I saw last year was we're forecasting a massive need for engineers, a deficit of several hundreds of thousands of engineers across all industries in the United States. And so it's a beautiful time. So.
Yeah, thank you. No, I mean, there's definitely a deficit. We see that in our industry too, not even just engineers, but operators and maintenance people. There's such a need. So, offering what you said, demonstrating a commitment to versatility is such a key thing that companies need to keep in mind. And, it is tough of like, I do love the flexibility that I have from working from home. But I've also had the luxury of I'm out in the field a lot. So I've gotten the best of both worlds in some way. But I miss it. I miss being a part of my team and a lot of that stuff. So, I know that the newer people coming in who've never had a job, who are coming straight from college or straight from high school, and they want that experience of working in a job with a team, and some don't. And having the range of that and being able to work with us, fickle millennial Gen Zers who want to work on different projects is great, and definitely a good testament towards trying to retain good people and get new people in too. So thank you very much for that. Ron, would you like to go
Sure.
next?
Thanks. No, that's been great listening to these guys. I'm taking notes and back our HR.
Yeah, I
group.
mean, planes are pretty cool.
These are pretty cool. These are pretty cool. So I guess I would characterize approach that we take at Sound Transit is trying to both connect with and touch the hearts and the minds of our employees, new employees, and also with employee retention. And let me speak to the touch the mind first. We do have a number of programs that are really geared to reflect an investment in the employees and the staff. We have Talent Connect program that's designed to help employees move laterally within the organization and gain a breadth of experience. That leads to ultimately some career mobility choices that the employees will have as they develop through their career. We also have mentoring programs. I'm a mentor at Sound Transit. I think all of our executive team are mentors. And I think it's good to set that example for the executive team and to mentor personally, because then you stay in touch with folks that are coming up through the career. And frankly, what you find is we think we're helping them, but seeing life through their eyes helps us see the future for our organization. So there's benefit both ways. We invest in our staff and offer opportunities for growth in Toastmasters and programs like that, where folks can develop their own skill set. Externally to the organization, we support staff involvement in things like APTA, national programs, leadership programs outside the organization. We offer financial support for tuition reimbursement and scholarships. We have a fairly, I think actually, since I've worked both in the public and private sector, we have a pretty generous benefits program that is quite encompassing and very attractive. And we have what I think is really important, and now we're starting to bend over to touching not only the mind but the heart, a recognition program where we have a program we call Values in Practice, where we recognize folks and they self-select among themselves who to nominate for Values in Practice awards at the organization. In terms of touching the heart, we pay a lot of attention to listening to our staff. Even our CEO has monthly coffees with new employees so he can get to know them personally and establish those kinds of relationships. And we try and stay current by listening to staff and what staff is interested in with regards to current events and where not only Sound Transit's going as an organization, but where we're going as a community. And we set out a very ambitious goal at Sound Transit after listening to employees and after living through what has happened in this country in the last few years. And that goal is simple, to state, but very difficult to achieve. And it is for Sound Transit to become an anti-racist organization. And as you can imagine, setting an audacious goal like that really generates a lot of passion, a lot of energy, some fear and apprehension, but it also allows the staff to really focus, to talk about things that we didn't talk about before, to break down barriers that have existed for a long time in our organizations, even our own agency. And it's a leap of faith, but it's an investment in the future of our organization and in the communities that we serve. And I think it's a real cornerstone to being able to stay current, challenge ourselves to do better, and put a marker out there that we may never hit, but we're going to aspire to and do things to work towards that goal. I think the other part of it, and what we've talked about with regard to remote work, because I'm 62 years old, so paper and pens is my thing. And when we went remote, I was nervous about it too, because I wanted to see my staff. And it was a leap of faith, but it also was an opportunity to trust. It came down to really a trust. And what we found is that our employees have responded so well. Productivity's actually gone up. People are happier. And while some miss the ability to get together, particularly our younger employees who want to get together a little bit more, they've also see the benefits of the flexibility that we now have. We do have a return to office plan, but after doing a survey, we have about 55% of our staff have decided to work at home most of the time, which will be 3 or more days at home. And the other 45% will be 3 or more days in the office. So it's almost evenly split. But the important thing is that the employees had a choice that they could make. And I think being able to make that choice is very empowering. And that's what we're about, to the extent we can, empowering staff to be part of the process of defining their own future and defining the path forward. And then I think, and I gotta tip my hat to Howard, because he made it sound fun. And I tell you, if you're having fun at work, it's not work anymore. And I think that's one of the things we try to do. When we're out on our construction jobs, whether it's recently completed Northgate Link or the Linwood Extension, Federal Way, Downtown Redmond, East Link, all of them have these very unique engineering challenges as part of them. We're working with Kevin's team to put light rail on a floating bridge. No one's ever done that before. And it's all new. And when we engage in those things, and not only with our engineering staff, but I like taking our administrative staff out there. I like taking our HR staff out there. I like taking our board administration staff out there, because the more people understand what we're trying to achieve and they see the magnitude of what we're doing, it builds excitement. And they see themselves as part of delivering these massive projects, even though they may not be the person who's the project director or the resident engineer or the inspector. They see their contribution. And when they see their contribution, it adds value to their experience at the organization. So I'll stop there and
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, the opportunities for growth that your company sounds like they offer is incredible. I know sometimes it takes effort to go out and find things like Toastmasters, and doing that on your own and providing that for your employees is great opportunities. I do want to give us a little time check here, Kristen. I do want to give you this question, but we are at 6:45 and we have a couple more. So Kristen, I'll toss it over to you, but the next couple questions might be a little bit more rapid fire. So answer this question, though. I don't want to sell you short on this one, but
Thank you. I will be brief, but I did want to make a couple of points. We as a city agency don't compete well on salary. We don't offer the opportunity to plan a trip to Mars or a trip to Switzerland. Where we are able to offer a really significant value is in the value of public service and the opportunity to have a hyper-local focus on working in the communities where our engineers live and visit and travel through. We have a couple of initiatives where people have the opportunity to really make a difference in the lives of the people we serve. We have a commitment called Vision Zero, which is to end deaths and serious injuries on our roadways by 2030. That is a really hard goal. We're struggling with it, to be honest. but that is a place where engineers can make a real difference, both in the way that we design projects, the way we design our roadways, and in also the educational and outreach components of that work. We also have an opportunity and an obligation to correct for disparate spending in the past and to serve communities that have been underserved throughout our service area. So we have a transportation equity framework that is guiding us to make up for project decisions and construction and or lack of investment that have been the result of redlining or the result of inequitable practices in the past. And that's another area where engineers, as well as data scientists, statisticians, planners, communications folks are all making significant differences in our community. And so those are some of the things that we can offer in addition to, great benefits package, a defined benefit pension. We have similar work at home, telework opportunities for staff to, join different organizations, both within the department and throughout the city. I do want to just also talk more about teleworking in that it's a great opportunity and a great benefit. It's also so important to me for engineers and planners and folks who are working on our projects to be out in the communities they serve and to be experiencing those transportation projects that they're designing and building. It's one thing to run the auto turns on a bus. It's another thing to be on the bus with the driver, testing those corners, and to see that the projects are making a difference for people in the community every day. So definitely needs to be a balance there.
Thank you. Sorry, I went to get waters back then. The Vision Zero thing sounds like an amazing goal. Really excited to see how that comes out and the opportunities that come with that of really needing to just hammer down and do the work. That's really exciting stuff. So I'm going to pass it back to Wayne, and like I said, we're going to do some more rapid fire to get through some more stuff. Thank you.
You guys have probably already seen we're going to try to make the next few questions go faster. And so, Howard, about your point on the younger engineers coming in, I work on the 777 as an MRB, and I see a lot of the younger engineers when they come in, they have that wonder in their eyes, especially when you're on the production and you see the massive airplane. You get to go walk out there and actually touch it and interact and talk to the mechanics and see the design. And I think it's a great way to get the new people in and kind of shake them a little because it's so cool to see. And sometimes you don't want to lose that awe. I think it's a great way to bring that in. And so over the last 15 years, we're at the lowest number of unemployed persons per job opening ratio. And that means there's a lot of opportunities. What would you say for the new graduates? It's definitely a competitive market, and they have limited experience due to the lockdown and COVID. What would you say to them, and what are your recommendations, especially if you're trying to interview or on their resumes? How do they stand out, especially when it is so competitive?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question, and I am so thrilled to go on campus and meet our young engineers who are in the latter stages of their schooling and are just graduated. I am just blown away by the level of sophistication and talent that is going on in our universities. Really, it's no joke. We spend a lot of time on my campus team, and I'll make it short, engaging with students who are involved in clubs. I mentioned Steel Bridge for one. We have, rocket clubs, Formula, SAE clubs, just a whole range of things. And the experiences that students gain from participating in those organizations at the university level is invaluable. So one key way, apart from having internships and experiences at a whole variety of different places and sources is to have some of those club experiences, whether you are a project manager for something, you're designing a drivetrain for something, you are doing outreach for sponsorships. There's a whole range of possibilities and potentials within the university construct that allow you to differentiate yourself, which I think is just incredible. And I have recruited so many students over the last 7 or 8 years that have come from some of those organizational backgrounds. I was speaking to one young lady that I was in the audience for a presentation for her club, and I met her in the hallway and I said, "You got to come work for me." And here it is 2 years later, and we are awarding her for coming up with this brilliant new innovation in the production system for reducing defects. And I just met with her the other day, and she's like, it's 2 years I've been here, and I moved up from the Bay Area, and I love living in Seattle. I'm doing all this stuff, and that is so rewarding to me, just so rewarding. And I just have countless examples of that. But it's through those engagements with the student clubs and taking advantage of the internships that are offered by everyone here that really allow you to differentiate yourself. And that doesn't mean that if you don't have those experiences, you still can't. I will hire people for attitude and energy over grades and experience. If you're coming with a really positive attitude and really positive energy, and you're really determined to dive in and do a good job, like I said, just getting out of our top universities gives you lots of bases for being a good, strong employee in the future, in my view. So,
Yeah,
I went longer than anything.
yeah, we got to run through this fast.
Sorry.
But
No, thank you.
yeah, but thank you, and I definitely feel that point. For the I guess talking about exciting projects, personally, I was actually really excited about Sound Transit with the link and light rail, because being able to jump in and get to the airport or downtown, I've already told a lot of my friends that I don't want to have to drive downtown anymore. And the fact that it's possible just to park at Northgate and go downtown, or directly to the airport if I'm picking friends up, I can just tell them, hey, get on the light rail and I'll pick you up. And it's so much faster than trying to fight traffic all the way down. So on that topic, like,
Found our spokesperson.
I'm definitely a fan. So in trying to pitch those ideas, going back to that question on the new students and new graduates, how would you tell them to stay competitive if they're just graduating, say they did Steel Bridge or they did Concrete Canoe? How do you pitch to them?
Yeah, I think it is a great question. I think so much of what is learned in school and in our early jobs and our careers is transferable. And I think that my suggestion and guidance would be to don't shy away from doing things, because there is likely transferability in everything that you're doing. And that's being able to see that. They may not see it themselves right then, but it is probably transferable. So that's one thing. Second thing I'd say is we often think about career development as I see job opportunities and I'm going to apply for that job and interview for that job and talk to those people who are part of that selection panel. That's great. But there's all kinds of other people out there, as you see, that have experience that would be delighted to chat with you by phone, by Zoom or Teams or over coffee, just to talk to them when you're not seeking a job. You just want ideas. Give me some ideas about how I go about job search, or how I go about intern search, or what topics are interesting that I should think about delving into. And what you'll find is, I'm not going to say 9 out of 10. I'm going to say 99.9 out of 100 of those folks would be happy to talk to you. And the one person that didn't want to talk to you, you don't want to talk to them anyway. So reach out to folks that you admire, reach out to folks that you see, and most of them will return your call and be happy to talk to you about options for your career development.
Cool. Thank you very much. Um, did you guys want to, down at the end, did you want to jump in or we can shift to
Yeah,
a
I'll put in a
question?
quick plug for working on and demonstrating really solid communication skills. Our engineers communicate with the public about projects they're designing, communicate with council members about projects. They're involved in grant writing. Um, it's not just the project work itself, it's talking about it and selling it and being a representative for the project and for the values and the mission behind those projects.
Yeah, and I agree with what I heard here. I wrote a note here. It says, all we need for you to do is come with a desire to learn and grow. And that's what we really want to see in an interview or in a candidate, the desire to learn and grow. The other thing, I mean, we don't build airplanes at DOT, but we build a lot of highways, tunnels, bridges and stuff of that nature. And it's really rewarding to see people who do an element of a bridge. They call it their project. They identify with it. They have ownership. From the Narrows Bridge to the tunnel to floating bridges, all of that stuff. We have people that are connected to those, a lifelong connection.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let's pivot to the recently passed bipartisan infrastructure bill, and especially speaking of bridges and the light rail and all that. Um, there's a large number of civil engineering objectives that they're trying to accomplish, and they're looking at upgrading the nation's airports, ports, investing in passenger rail, power infrastructure, and fixing a lot of the aging infrastructure throughout the country, but specifically here in the state of Washington. So what are your thoughts on the bill, and how do you think it'll affect your group or the industry as a whole? If we start at the far end.
Sure. Well, we are really excited about it for a couple of reasons. One is the size. It's a historic level of investment in infrastructure. There are probably 20 different programs that we're looking at as potential grant sources for different types of work that we do. The other exciting aspect of it is more than any time in the past, the values and criteria that we're starting to see come out for those grant sources are aligned with our values around equity and safety, infrastructure maintenance, and mobility, as opposed to just more capacity. So it's both an opportunity for us to fund some of the vast maintenance needs that we have, and also to start looking at new projects that really serve the community in ways that allow them to get around in more efficient, more climate friendly, and more equitable ways. It's going to be a lot of grant writing, a lot of design work, and a lot of construction work.
Oh yeah, and I can see the opportunities for Seattle and the greater Western Washington area to try to make a lot of improvements, because there's so much. It's such a growing city, and we have that opportunity to make those changes. It's gonna be good to see. So, Kevin, if you
I'd agree with everything she said. I am particularly impressed and pleased with the taking care of the infrastructure we have. We do have a problem here in Washington, as well as throughout the nation, with the lack of funding for maintenance and preservation of our infrastructure. And you look at the federal formula grants; those have gone up. We do have a lot of discretionary grants out there, but the fact that the formula money has gone up to take care of our bridges and roads, I think, is critically important. You couple that with what we've done in connecting Washington and what we may be doing in the next package locally and moving Washington forward, we are getting a handle, getting closer to getting a handle on the preservation needs, and we need to do that to make sure our system is resilient into the future.
Thank you. You guys want to keep going? We're over time right now, but I want you guys to answer this question. So sorry.
I'll defer to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll jump in on this one. I'll try and be brief.
No, I mean, this is a great topic, so
It is a great
thanks for letting
topic,
us
and
go a
it's
little longer.
It's a great question. At Sound Transit, we updated our strategic plan a couple of years ago and recommitted to our values. And I carry this card, and it's got 6 values on it. It's got customer service, collaboration, inclusion and respect, safety, quality, and integrity. And I say that because when you link your values with your investments, You can do powerful things. And this infrastructure bill allows us as a nation, not just as a transit agency or a city government or state, or even a huge international conglomerate like Boeing. It allows us to change the world. And when you start thinking about what can happen in places, I mentioned earlier, I'm from Michigan, and how saddened I was a couple years ago when it came out that there's lead in the pipes in Flint, Michigan. That was a crisis, and hundreds of thousands of people were affected by that. This infrastructure bill allows us to address issues like that when we link the money and the investments with our values and use infrastructure as a means of changing the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. As someone who primarily does asset management and condition assessment work, yeah, that's the heart of it. And like what Kristen said too about a lot of grant writing is ahead. But really, you know, having your company understand your mission and your values and living through that is not only a way to get the work done and to win the grants, but to get good people on board too. So yeah, if you'd like to finish
All I
this
can
out.
say is that the work that goes on here with these leaders is just incredibly valuable to us. We're the transportation sector, of course. And so, especially when we look at the supply chain for us, ports, the infrastructure of the ports, the infrastructure for roads and bridges, and of course, airports, it's hugely valuable. And while we don't necessarily have direct engagement in those projects, watching that development again is critical for our broader operation and for our customers and for our suppliers. So huge debt of gratitude to you all for that work. It's just incredibly important, and just really look forward to the benefits that come from the new bill.
Great. I'm going to throw in a couple questions from the audience while we're again over time, but and just any one of you, however wants to answer, what are some regional infrastructure deficiencies that you think can or should be addressed through the infrastructure bill?
Well, I think certainly condition of roads, pavement conditions, bridges throughout the state. And again, I'm not trying to sound alarmist. If a bridge was unsafe to travel, it would be closed, but they are in a degrading situation. When you look at the state of good repair dollars that we need to do a state of good repair on a bridge, the money's just not there historically, and we've got a huge backlog. So that would be my comment on that. Is it's a safe bridge to cross, but it is in a declining state. We tend to look at things like a roof, a 25-year roof. If you're on year 35 and you're investing money in new things such as a big screen TV, at some point the living room's going to get wet. You need to take care of what you have as a fundamental. I think we do that internally with our own things. We change the oil in our vehicles on a regular basis. We take care of our house, but infrastructure-wide, we tend to neglect that because, well, it looks okay. It looks okay today. I don't need to do that paint job on the bridge. I don't need to resurface the deck. And you'll see a lot through the Seattle area on I-5 that is beyond its useful life. I mean, a concrete pavement has a design life of about 30 years. We're on 65 on a lot of it. So we're on borrowed time. And you see the joints pop up on a hot day. You see concrete panels buckle on a hot day. That's neglect, and we've got to get out ahead of that.
Yeah, and I think relying too on maintenance is such a critical component. In the water world, we deal with a lot of pumps and stuff. I think it's incredible when you look at things like you have a pump running for 100 years, but that's past its useful life. But if you are putting that money into investing into taking care of infrastructure, it can last, and being able to have the right people to go and identify those things. When is the bridge starting to buckle? What's a difference between some hairline finger cracks versus like, ooh, that's a crack. Like there's a significant difference in and really focusing in and spending money, not only where we think we need it and what sometimes has like a bright shiny ribbon on it, but what's necessary and the right time to do so is really critical to making sure we can stretch the money that's there, because it's wonderful that we have so much to work with now, but it's not as big as we need it to be at the end of the day. ASCE does our infrastructure report card. We're still getting grades that our parents wouldn't have been excited about if we brought home from school. So it's a lot of money out there, but using it wisely is so important, and maintenance is key, I think. So I don't know if anyone else want to chime in on that? Okay, cool. Well, like I said, we're kind of over, so I just want to thank you guys for joining us. We do have kind of a networking time after that, but we gotta get out of the auditorium. So for all those calling in, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to our panelists. If you have any other questions, please put them in the chat now. I think even though we might be off the screen, our panelists might be lingering a little bit, so we might be able to type you some questions. But let us know or email us. Thank you so much for joining tonight. And if you would like to be a part of the American Society of Civil Engineers for the Seattle section or the younger member group, please check out our website. We have LinkedIn pages. We're happy to always get new members and do exciting opportunities and share from industry leaders like you guys. So thanks so much, and thank you all watching. I'm Mackenzie and Wayne, and we're signing off. Thanks, guys.